Thank you so much. That's just great. Wow. It's good to see you again. It's been a few years.
I'm just moving furniture.
Yeah, we were on a political panel. I was chosen, I told you it was on election night, I was chosen as the right-wing freako, and Beth, I guess, was going to be the left-wing freako on the show in Calgary. And we just really had a good evening together, and it's just so good to see her again and to see that she is not only alive, but well. And she is honoring her parents, and for that, I give her a whole lot of credit. Thank you, Biff. It's excellent. Well, folks, number 16, Captain Canuck, Trevor Linden. Come on down. How fun is this?
How are you?
I am well.
Nice.
Are you? You too.
It's great to
Wow.
be here. Hello, everyone.
Have a chair.
Thank you.
Now, I told you earlier about me blowing into the minor hockey banquet, thinking that I was going to impress all the kids with my Oilers Wayne Gretzky jersey. I lived in Alberta for 30 years. And I thought Trevor might come in his jersey. He didn't, which is fine. But I have mine here. And you're going to say, yeah, you're an Oilers fan, Deb. Well, I am that, but I love hockey. I am also a Canucks fan. And you say, why are you here in your Oilers jersey? Because Trevor didn't bring me a Canucks jersey that was signed by him. So there we are. But anyway, I'll throw this up.
I didn't want to offend you, Deb.
Trust me, in my line of work, Trevor, I'm not easily offended.
Nice. So you were in Edmonton during the heyday, the 80s.
I was there. I moved to Alberta in 1979.
Nice.
And it was, or 77, finished university, started teaching in 79. And I met Wayne on the day he retired. And the scariest part for me, although it was very exciting, I was just in a small group. And he came through the line and he said, hey, I like your jersey, Deborah. And I thought, it's Wayne Gretzky. He knows my name. He called me Deborah. He knows you way better than he knows me.
Yes, the first time I met Wayne Gretzky was, it was during a game, my first game against the Los Angeles Kings, because he got traded that summer. So I'll never forget, it was my first game against the Kings, and I was a kid that grew up in Alberta. I grew up in Medicine Hat, and I was on the ice, and Wayne was over talking to the referee. And I'm kind of standing there. He was having some long discussion with the referee. So, young guy, I'm 18 years old, I'm a big Wayne Gretzky fan. I think, wow, that's Wayne Gretzky. That's really cool. I'm going to go over and kind of pretend like I'm going to listen in and be part of the conversation, right? Because I'm an NHL player, right? So I go over to the referee and Wayne, and they both kind of look at me like, who the hell are you and what are you doing here? And I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, good. And I just kind of skated away. And it was a little bit embarrassing because they were like, what are you doing here? But it was just my opportunity to get real close to Wayne Gretzky, you know. So unfortunately, it was during an NHL hockey game, which maybe was inappropriate. But
the restaurant might be better.
Yeah,
sort of like Wayne Gretzky's 99 restaurant or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You were the enemy then.
Yes.
But you're an Alberta kid. How could you not?
Well, it was
love an Oiler, love a
exactly, and that's my message to all those Oiler Flames fans. You know, growing up in Alberta, it was an interesting situation because I came to Vancouver in 1988 to play hockey, of course, and we weren't very good, the Vancouver Canucks, and we'd go to Edmonton and Calgary to get beat up on by those Flames and Oilers on a regular basis. And
happened again last night in Edmonton.
Yes, I thought you might bring that up, Deb. Yeah.
Well, it was the Canucks' first loss in the division, and the Oilers' first win in their division here. And the season is not exactly brand new.
Good for those young kids from Edmonton. You know, like I say to Oilers fans, you know, you just need to suck for another couple years, and then you'll be really good for a long time. I mean, you know what I mean?
They've been saying that.
That's the best way to get good, is to suck for a period of time, right? So anyways, just to finish my story. So my parents would come to Edmonton. They'd make the journey to Edmonton to Calgary to watch their young son play and get crushed by the Oilers and Flames. And my dad's favorite line in Calgary, of course, when we'd get beaten up and everything else. And of course, the Flames had this tradition where after every goal, the whole 18,000 people would do the big Yahoo, Yahoo, you know what I mean? So favorite line after a game in Calgary, say, geez, kid, you got Yahoo'd right out of the Saddle Dome again tonight, didn't you? So I grew old pretty quick.
Oh my! What about the season for the Canucks this year? How's it looking?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for the guys this year is, I don't think it's a physical. I mean, they played until June 15th last year, deep, obviously 7th game. I think the body recovers, but I think their biggest challenge is going to be from the mental side of it, you know. And we saw it last night a little bit. They came out and didn't play real well early in the game, but then realized the urgency of the situation and played really well in the third period, but you know, they couldn't catch up. So mentally is going to be a challenge for them. They're going to have to you know, get mentally prepared and on that edge, because let's face it, in today's NHL, there's lots of teams that want your spot in the playoffs, and it can happen like that.
Exactly. When I saw the first game of the season a few weeks ago, I said to my husband, Lou, oh, June and the playoffs, you know, are a long, long ways away. So
well, that's just the mental side of things. I mean, they go from playing the biggest games of their lives, games 5, 6, and 7, in the Stanley Cup final, to playing game 1 of 82 or 9 of 82. And, you know, it's one of those things where mentally you need to prepare yourself to do all those little things, and it's just hard, and it's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah. Mentally is one thing, physically is another, but do you think the Canucks right now are gelling together pretty well?
Well,
do you think they have good opportunity to get the playoffs?
They've got a good group of guys. They've got great leadership. Daniel and Henrik are wonderful guys and good leaders. Manny Malhotra, you know, the Ryan Kesslers. By the way, I think Ryan Kessler should play without a shirt on. You know, he should be the only player allowed to play without a shirt on.
Well, you could work on that.
Yeah.
You'd probably have better luck at it than I would.
But, you know, they're going to have to rely on their leadership, and you know, I think they've got good leadership. They've got a good core nucleus of players. They've got a good group there. They're, you know, with a lot of good people. They're well coached, but it's going to be a challenge for them.
What was the best thing you learned in the locker room?
You know, for me, I think I had the. I think there's a lot of parallels between playing hockey and what happens in the real world and what happens in business and day-to-day operations. And I think that for me, I probably learned, you know, when we approached a game, I played for some great coaches, the Mark Crawfords, the Alain Vigneaults, the Pat Quinns of the world, and you know, we sat there before games knowing the result we wanted at the end of the night. That was easy. We wanted to win. But I think the biggest lesson I learned, and I continue to use in my life today, is just figuring out what steps are needed to take to get there. And you know, I compare it to having, we know the goal at the end of the day, but what are the short-term goals necessary to get there? And you know, and that started in our preparation and how we approached each game. And I think each game kind of becomes you know, a project, you know, or a company's goals or that sort of thing. So probably just determining what goalposts we needed to hit to get to our final goal.
What was the best locker room advice you ever gave to your guys?
You know, advice that I gave, I mean, so many different situations warranted different, you know, responses, but I had a really interesting experience in 1991. I went to the All-Star game in Chicago, and I was a young kid and intimidated. I was a bit scared, and I get to Chicago, and I'm in the locker room, and a guy comes up to me and introduces himself and basically says, you know, let me know what I can do for you. If you know, this is an intimidating spot to be in for a young guy. If you've got any questions, let me, you know, don't be afraid to ask. So that guy turned out to be Steve Yzerman, and so I had the great opportunity to play with Steve again in the World Cup in '96, and then again in Nagano in the Olympics in '98. And Steve taught me a lot, and Steve was one of the best players in the game, top goal scorer, but he had the great ability to walk into a locker room full of stars and be one of those guys that was, you know, Coach, what do you need me to do to be successful? You know, and you know, you need me to check the other team's top line, you need me to kill penalties, which were not something he was used to doing, but he was willing to sacrifice his personal gain for the benefit of the team. And I always call it, you know, he was the guy that was willing to check his ego at the door. And so when and great teams always have guys that are willing to sacrifice and do what's necessary to get the job done. And you know, maybe not, well, that's not on my job description. I'm not supposed to do that. Yeah, well, you know what? You know, great teammates do things that aren't always necessarily what they're supposed to do or were brought in to do, but the job requires it. So, I mean, I always looked at the teams that we had and certainly recognized players that were willing to do that.
We talked about number 99 a few minutes ago, but I was thinking about when you said about your first time on the ice, and he didn't have a clue who you were, some big tall kid, yes. But he obviously learned who you were later. What dealings have you had with him lately? Because you have some pretty impressive records of your own.
Yeah, well, you know, Wayne was involved. Actually, it was interesting because I got to know Wayne as a player, played with him during the Olympics and the World Cup and in a couple All-Star games. Dealt with Wayne on the player side of the 1994 lockout, and then also had a lot of interaction with Wayne as he was an owner in the 2004 lockout. So, you know, Wayne is certainly an ambassador for the game. You know, was a player, was a coach, was a manager, has been an owner on the ownership side. So, you know, someone that I have a lot of respect for, and not only for his on ice abilities, but what he's been able to do off the ice from a business standpoint and a career standpoint.
But from Wayne's side, he would sit here if he showed up in the room and he'd say, you know, that Trevor Linden, he's quite a guy. Isn't that cool? I think that's very cool because he may be the greatest, the number 99, the star, et cetera, who was voted by the public to be in this greatest Canadian thing without him even knowing about it. I didn't know, he wasn't to know about it, so he didn't know anything about that going on. But he would sit here and say a lot of very interesting things about you as well. And that's what I love about the NHL, or I'm a football nut as well, that there is that camaraderie, there's that team spirit, that you're all in that together, and he would sing your praises just as loudly as you're singing his.
Yeah, well, that's nice to hear. Obviously, I think we got a lot in common because I'm a sports fan too, so I like that. So, but you know, I think that there's so much. I mean, the reason I love sports. It's been my life for many years, and I think I love sport, and I especially love sport for our kids, not because they're going to grow up one day and be an Olympic athlete or a professional athlete, but I think it's the lessons that are taught along the way, and whether it be the lessons of determination and hard work and dedication and preparation and all those sorts of things, but you know, healthy lifestyles and learning and loving to do things outdoors and be active, I think translates into healthy people from, you know, mind and body and spiritual and all that sort of thing.
Tell us about your kids. How many? How old? What are they up to?
I have no kids and no dog. And so, like I say, my wife and I, we have zero responsibility, it seems. So, yeah, from a family side, it's pretty quiet, just her and I. It's 6 degrees and raining outside today, which a lot of people would be disgusted with. I find it quite exciting because I know somewhere it's snowing, and that's a good thing.
That's
so
always good.
I can see a little dusting on the North Shore Mountains, so that means ski season. My wife and I, we love to cross-country ski, we alpine ski as well, and certainly spend a lot of time on the bike in the summer, traveling around, doing some cycling around the world and that sort of thing.
That's neat. So no physical kids as such, but a whole lot of kids that you have been mentor to. Yeah,
I mean, I've had the great fortune of playing in a city for a long time, and the message that I got, my first 18 years old, I came to Vancouver, and Brian Burke, Pat Quinn were the manager and general manager here, and their message to us my first year and the team here was, we expect a lot of you on the ice, but we also expect a lot, even more, off the ice. So if you're not prepared to do both, you won't be here very long. And that was my introduction to being part of the community. And I think it was, you know, the Griffiths family and Pat and Brian. And, you know, through that, I've been able to be involved in some really cool projects, such as Canuck Place, and meet some incredible people from around the province, parents and their kids who've come to Vancouver for treatments. And so been really blessed with that opportunity to make those relationships and to continue those relationships. Cool. So no kids of my own, but besides my brother's kids, I you know, lots of young people that I've had the great fortune of spending time with. That's right. And just as important, you said we have a lot in common. You're right.
You are Captain Canada, the Captain Canada. I'm a July 1st baby, so I qualify somewhere in there.
Absolutely.
You received the Order of Canada last year.
You know, I was it was announced early this year, and I'm actually going to Ottawa on the 3rd of November, so next week.
For your investiture.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. I just think that's great. I too was blessed with the Order of Canada, and talked to the people in the Governor General's office when I was sitting with my friend Mary in Tim Hortons having coffee. And I thought, I don't recognize his voice, but who's playing this trick on me?
How Canadian is that?
I know, it was great, but what an honor, that's huge. We are both bikers also. I do the lazy kind. I'm the motorcycle rider, and you and your wife are serious bicycle riders.
Yes.
Go to Whistler lots on your bikes?
Well, the Grand Fondo we did, but she has her group she rides with, and certainly I like to, human power is good, and for me, 20 years of my life was playing professional hockey, so it was all about physical activity every day, and I recognized very quickly when I retired that I not only need that for my physical being, but between the years I need that activity to keep the sanity there. So
we both left at the top of our game. Why'd you leave?
Because I wasn't at the top of my game. You might have left at the top of your game.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you get a little older in hockey than political people do. But
like I tell people, being described as the old warrior, the grizzled veteran, or just simply the gray beard gets a little old at times, and showing up at the rink worried about if you're looking a little gray and what your coach is thinking is not so much fun. So when your teammates are more concerned with the latest version of Grand Theft Auto on their DSs and sending text messages, you're kind of like, okay, it's time to go. So
it's good to know, though, isn't it, before you get the kind of the proverbial boot.
Exactly.
Well,
so leave. Better to leave before they ask you to leave. Yes.
I agree. So he's Captain Canuck. I'm Miss Canuck. He has the Order of Canada. So do I. We are blessed. We are both bikers in our own manner of speaking. We both left before we got ultimately pushed. In fact, I'm thinking probably that you'll hardly be able to tell us apart after this interview. We have so much in common. But I need to tell you all, and tell you too, I can't skate. Ladies and gentlemen, Trevor Linden, number 16.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you. Thanks very much.
What a morning. Has this ever been fun? I have enjoyed every minute of it. How tall are you, Trevor?
Last time I checked, 6'3.5".
6'3.5". When he was playing hockey, probably 6'4". What a wonderful morning this has been. It's been just absolutely terrific. I have enjoyed every moment of it, loved all the presenters, thought it was great. The cameraman will still be out there and the guitar will be on site. Make sure you do that. I would like to turn to Perry and Teresa again to give us some wrap-up comments. Perry and Teresa.